Hello, everybody. So, we human beings as a species have come a long way since the times we were apes, yeah, or at least that's the most popular theory amongst as to how human beings have come to be. And we are now evolved, from there, and we've come to a large part of our population being the sitting race. We are sitting a lot of the time. We have a lot of our work happens on computers, a lot of it. And so what we have, a major percentage of the population is sitting. Yeah, and then there are people who are, doing housekeeping, and there are homemakers taking care of things. So there are people who are standing and doing stuff, but a large part of the population is sitting. And we have a lot of our administrators, leaders, decision makers sitting. Now, what is interesting about this is, if you've heard about the chakra system, yeah, and that is, the chakra system is said to be the engine system, the energy engine system of the body. Now, this is, you may Google it, you may search on Google, you will find it. The point I'm saying is, there are said to be 7 major engines, yeah, 7 energy centers that manage the different physiological, emotional, and different aspects of what makes a human body, a human being, functioning and functioning optimally. Now, this is there for every animal in their own ways, but when it comes to human beings, and when you look at how the body is designed, the body is largely designed to move. And when we are sitting, the spine, which is supposed to be mobile as it's moving around, because it is designed in such a way that it can support the body. And when you're sitting, the strain and the pressure of sitting falls on the sacral bone and the coccyx. And then we have different kinds of postures. Yeah, we sit in all kinds of ways. But standing also, there is different thing. You need to keep managing between the weight, yeah, left, right, up, down. But when you're sitting, you tend to be largely sitting in one or the other position in limited positions. And the pressure of sitting, the entire weight of the body is on the sacral bone and the coccyx. And the lower part of the body weight has been given to the chair where you're sitting. So the function which the spine needs to be doing in balancing between the upper part of the body, or rather the coccyx and the sacrum, whose function is to balance between the upper part of the body and the lower part of the body, is having a little imbalance. Not a little imbalance, because the chair is taking half of the function that the spine should have been doing otherwise. Yeah. Now, what happens is, in such a position, with a large part of the upper body whose weight is being borne by the sacrum, when it should have been kind of balanced by the hip, there's an upward strain which is having its effect on the diaphragm. The diaphragm is the lower part of supports the lungs at the lower part of the bottom of the lungs. Yeah, the lungs sit on the diaphragm, more or less. Yeah, when the diaphragm moves, the breathing happens appropriately. Now, the point I'm arriving at here is, when we have a large percentage of the population sitting, we have decision makers sitting. Yeah, and we are talking about leaders, decision makers. We are talking about people who run the country, run different organizations, and functioning, making the decisions from a compromised physical state. And around the region of the diaphragm is the solar plexus. The solar plexus is largely, in a way, sort of concerned with personal power, but is also when it's sort of holding together and sort of scrunched in some way, particularly in times of stress and when you have to make important choices. That instead of it being a space of ease and grace and freedom and the wellness that comes from that, it becomes a matter of survival where you're scrunched up. So you may be making decisions from a survival mode, fight, flight, freeze. And when you have a lot of people functioning from that point, where you're largely operating from that, and when we transpose this idea on the idea of a critical mass, which means a certain number of people is required to bring about a certain effect, yeah. And when we have a large part of the population being in a compromised physical state, a compromised state of well-being, because you're sitting a large part of the time, how does that show up in our everyday experiences of living, especially when decisions are being made from a compromised state, and then you're making your choices also you're sitting a lot of time. I'm repeating myself here, but what I'm saying here is we see a lot of survival concerns more than living concerns. Yeah, the ease, grace, and flow of living may be being compromised because who needs to be making those healthy choices which will actually facilitate healthy living, which will facilitate growth, not just for the present generation, but also for further generations. Our own family members may be sitting and then thinking about how to facilitate for people who are now and for future generations. And what I'm saying here is, they may be doing that, yeah, even within our own homes. We may be doing it from a compromised state because we tend to sit a lot of times. So I think just if we care enough to not sit as much, and to bring about an ease and grace in how we place our spine, in how much we care on the weight we put on our hips, just that will alone help in facilitating a better life, not only for us but also for generations to come. Just the care enough to not put a lot of weight on our hips will help us to hip what we need to do, what we need to support. You've heard the thing, shouldering a responsibility. Here I would say hipping a better world. I hope we care enough to hip a better world into existence, that we care enough to walk more, and to try out many other postures than the predominant sitting. So, best wishes to all of us. I'm on it, so do leave your comments below. I would definitely like to hear from you, and we will start a conversation on what it takes to care enough, in having the world a better place to live in.